Hello everyone and welcome to the Cupcake Factory. Well, we're not going to make a cupcake factory, but the idea behind this series of tutorials is to make a bunch of cupcakes and then put them in a box and do shading, lighting and rendering in LOPs. Okay, so that is the overall idea behind this series. So to get started, we will model a single cupcake and then we'll build variations of it. So let's get started. Okay, so to start off with, I'll just create a geometry folder. We'll call it Cupcake. And let's just jump in. So we're going to start off by making a single line, and most of it will be dependent on this line itself. And what I want to do is I just want to give it a few points, or we can do that with a resample. So let's take a resample, because the good thing about using a resample is that you get the curve view function. I don't think we need it right now, but there's no harm in having it. Okay, so I'll just keep it. So I'll keep the segments to 10 and we'll just use the curve view. And I want the length to be about 0.7. Okay, so I don't know, very tall line. Okay, so the first thing is, most cupcakes are, they have because the mold has those grooves on the side. So that is usually what a cupcake looks like. So we're going to first sort of model the base, which will have those grooves in it. And then we'll have like a sphere on top. So I'll start off with a simple circle. And what I want to do is let's keep it to polygon. And we're going to use the new sweep tool. So with the sweep tool, we need the backbone curves comes in the first and then the cross section comes in the second. So let's keep it this way. And we plug in the line and we plug in the circle. Okay, and this is fine. What you can also do is you'll notice the faces are pointing inwards, the dark faces are, the wrong side. So you also have an option in the sweep called reverse cross section. So we can do that. And we also have an option for end cap. So you can have a grid end cap, or you can have a single side polygon, which is not what we want. We can do a single polygon, this is okay as well. And you can create a group of the end caps if you want. Okay, we can try the grid, and you have options here. So you can have a roundedness. Okay, and then you can also do a scale. So if you want it flat, we can do that as well. And you can also, the roundedness adjusts based on a sphere. But if you want them to be uniformly spaced, we can just, bring it to 0, the end cap roundness, and we can increase a few segments. So this is fine, but this isn't really what we want. So what I want to do is I just want to make this slightly smaller. And we want to generate the grooves in it. Okay, so essentially what we want to do is we want to make a star. So I'm going to take the number of divisions and make it 24. And then we're going to take a group by range. And let's call it odd, and let's call the group as odd as well. And what we want to do is we want to select points, and we want to select one of every two. So you'll get this. Okay, so we're selecting every alternate point, and then I can take a transform. I can select odd and just scale it down. So I can just scale it down a little bit, and there you go. I think we need more of them. So let's get it to about 48. Yeah, so you'll get this. And so if you look at the sweep now, see that looks like what we want. Okay, this is still too big because we don't want the, the size to be that big. So make it small enough. Okay, I think this is okay. Now the next thing I want to do is I also want to taper it. So take a bend. A bend has the taper option in there, but we can also try to take a taper and you'll get a linear taper. Okay, which is essentially the same thing. If you look at the bend tool, it has a bunch of options in there, right? So you have bend, you have twist, and you have taper, and you have stuff like that. So it's just the same thing. See, this also says it's bend and that is bend. They have the same icon. So when you type it, you just get the same thing. It's just like different things are turned on. So I can turn on the taper, and what I want to do first of all is adjust the capture direction. So this will be 1 in the y-axis. Then the length should be the length of the line. So just right click, copy parameter, come to the taper, capture length and paste relative reference, and then just give it a slight taper, so about like that much. Okay, so this is good. Now what I want to do is naturally we want a sphere on top so that it's it curves on top, because the flower or the dough rises, right? So that's why you get that dome on top. So let's do one thing here, which is I want to select the topmost point, because we're going to copy the sphere to the topmost point. So let's take a group here and again do a group by range. We can put it in the middle, it won't make any difference. Okay, and we can just call it top, and I want to select like invert range, keep it to points, keep the end value to 1. Okay, like before, if you don't do invert range, you're selecting everything except the top point, and then you do invert range and then it just selects the top point. Okay, now let's take a sphere, and I want to do a couple of things with the sphere. Okay, so I'll keep this to polygon. I'll increase the number of sides to about 30. I want the X and Z radius to be the same. So I'll right click, do copy parameter and paste relative reference. And I want the Y to be like, I want it slightly squashed. So I'll make it 0.5. Okay, I want it like that. And then I can basically try and take the circle size, okay, and put that in the uniform scale. Okay, so that this is 0.6, so this should also be 0.6. So I can just right click here, do copy parameter, and let's do paste relative reference here as well. And then come to the uniform scale and do paste relative reference. Okay, so this is roughly the same size. See, you can see that it's the same size as the sphere. Okay, the next thing I want to do is I want to sort of have it sort of depress a little in the middle. So I can take a meta ball and you get a modifier called bulge. Okay, so take a bulge modifier. So a bulge modifier needs what's called as a magnet. So a meta ball works as a magnet, and then it needs what points am I supposed to bulge. Okay, so we put the sphere in there, take a transform so we can move the meta ball, and we'll put it here into bulge. Just take this, move it up, and in here, so you can adjust magnitude. So it gives you this nice little shape, like it depresses in the middle. And you can move it around. So if you want it, if you don't want it to rise as much, you can sort of just move it around. See, you can also do, something like that. But yeah, you can just do something like this. Now I want to copy it to the top. So just take a copy to points. And I can take, this and that. And I want to select top. See, so there you go. And then let's just take this here. And let's do one more thing. I'm going to take a transform. And I want to scale this further. Okay, actually, let's do one thing. Let's put the transform here. Yeah. I want to scale it further based on the taper value. Okay, so what I can do is I can take the taper amount. I can right click here on the taper value, copy parameter, come into this transform and do paste relative reference. So what's going to happen is that this is scaling based on, the top taper value. And so if we merge these two together, what we should get is this. But what you can also do is I want it to be slightly smaller. Like I don't want it to just completely overtake it. So you can do a minus 0.1. Okay, that's too small. Let's try 0.04. Yeah, no, or a little bit more. Yeah, I think this is good. Okay. Okay, so this is fine, but this still doesn't give us like a, like a smooth result that we want. So what you can do instead, or what is a better way to do it, is actually let's just do one thing. Let's keep it the way it is right now. We'll adjust it later. Is instead of using this for and I use this a fair bit of times, is you can use VDBs to do the modeling. Okay, because the great thing about VDB is it allows you to smoothen out objects. So first of all, what exactly is VDB, right? So VDB stands for volume database, which is essentially an open source format for not just importing, exporting volume data from one software to another, but it also comes with a set of tools that allow you to modify volumes. And one of the great things about it is that because it's sort of resolution free and polygon free. And the second is because it's volumes, it allows you to sort of just, smoothen them. And that's great when you're doing organic stuff like this. Okay, so the polyflow is going to be terrible, but it doesn't really matter because we're trying to do a cupcake. Okay, so when you want to do very detailed organic looking stuff, it is great to sort of work with VDBs. So the way it works is pretty simple, right? You can just take, first we convert these to VDB, both of them. So you take something called VDB from Polygon and plug it in. So this converts into a VDB. You'll notice this has polygons. It says 960 polygons. And if you come here and it's just one VDB, and you want to keep the distance VDB to surface because it's supposed to be a surface, and then just take the voxel size and make it lower. So we'll get it to 0.02. That gives you detail. The lower this value is, the more resolution the VDB has. And we do the same thing here. So do Control-C, Control-V, and I can plug it in. And now what we do is we do a VDB combine. So take a VDB combine, and you can combine these two and come to the operation and say SDF union. See, so it will merge these two together. And now comes the best part, which is you can take something called VDB smooth. So if you take VDB smooth and see, what it allows you to do is it just allows you to blend the whole thing together. Okay, and then you can define, you have a Gaussian blend, you have median value, which is a little more harder. I think mean value is fine. Okay, you can lower the iterations if you want them to be harder, but I think 4 is good. You can also increase the voxel radius. See, so what it allows is it allows you to do these really rounded things. And the great thing here is if I adjust the taper, you will see even the sphere sort of automatically adjusts according to that. But yeah, let's make it slightly smaller, like what we had done before. So we'll do minus 0.05. Yeah, there you go. And what we can also do is I can just take a transform in here. If you want to slightly adjust it, I can just move it up a little bit. And you can also take this transform and move it up. So see, if you want it to be fully like that, we can have it like this. And if you just want a little bit of bulge, then we can do that. See, so you can, and okay, let's make this even more smaller. So let's make it 0.07. Yeah, perfect. See, this is good. This is exactly what we want. Yeah, let's take that bulge and make it deeper still. Yeah, perfect. See, so there you go. And the nice thing is all of this is dependent on this line. So if I make the line taller, the cake, adjusts. And if I also make the circle bigger, like if I come in here and I make the circle bigger, you'll see that still adjusts. Yeah, so let's bring the line back to 0.7 or let's do 0.75. I think 7.5 is good. And yeah, so this is your basic, cupcake. Now, so this can't be rendered right now because this is polygons. Or if you try to render it, it will just render as a fog volume. But we need to convert it back to polygons in order to be able to render it. And as I said, if you want more detail, just bring this further down. So what I can do is I can take right click, copy, and just connect the voxel size, paste relative reference, and I could make it 0.07, 007. So that will give me a little more detail. If you want that, otherwise I think it was fine at where it was. Okay, so just take a VDB convert and you'll get something called convert VDB and change this to polygon and just plug it in. And there you go. So now you're back to polygons. So the mesh doesn't look great, but I don't particularly care in this case because you get this really nice smooth result, which is essentially what I want. Okay, so now what I want to do before we sort of close this particular video is I would also like to color them. So what I can do is I can just take, so I want to color it based on two things. I want to color it based on curvature, and then I also want to create like a layer cake. So I want to color it based on height. So what I can do is I can just take a measure, and we can measure the curvature. So let's just call this curvature, and press enter in the viewport. So you'll see what it's calculating, and the measure will be set to curvature, and we will change this to principal. Yeah, so this is good. You can also try curvedness. Yeah, I think I like curvedness better. Okay, so let's keep it to curvedness, and in the viewport it will show you the value range. So the value range is from 0 to 0.5. Okay, and then I can take a color. So I want to generate 3 cakes, so we're going to take 3 colors. But along with this, let's also do one thing. We're going to take an attribute warp, and this one we will call it height. And what I want to do is I just want to generate a gradient based on height. So the way we'll do it is I can just take a relative to bounding box. Okay, take in the first input. Yeah, and if we connect it to color, like connect it to CD, you'll see the color it generates. But what we want is we only want the y-axis. So I'm going to disconnect this, and we'll take a vector to float, and we will just take a ramp parameter, and I'll call it height, and I'll label it height as well. Yeah, and so plug in the second one, which is y, and then this goes into color, and see, so we have this. Okay, so just to set up our colors, or let's just call it layered. Okay, so let's take this and we'll say I want like 3 constant colors if we want to do that. Yeah, see, so I can like drop this in. So let's say I want maybe like a pink and blue, and let's try orange. Okay, and then here I want 2 separate colors. So I want like one to be like chocolate, so I can set it to ramp from attribute, and this will be called curvature, and let's make it 0.02. Okay, so the reason you're not seeing the color is because you need to set the element type to points, because right now what's happening is the curvature value, the curvature attribute is going over to primitives and not into points. So what you do is you take the curvature and you set it to points, and you'll get the same result, except now it will be, see, so now if you come in here, there you go. So I can make it 0.1. Yeah, so it's soft enough. And what you can also do, or let's make it 0.3. Okay. What you can also do is we can put a smooth in the middle. So just take a smooth. So a smooth allows you to smoothen out anything. Like by default, it smoothens out position, but we can smoothen out the attribute as well. So you can just take the smooth and type in curvature, and see, so it can sort of like, blend it a little bit. Yeah, I think this is good. And then I can come in here and I can just set up color. So I'll set this to like a brown, like I want to do like a chocolate cake. So, and let's make it 0.1. Yeah, see, so you get like some nice little shading. Basically, that's the idea with this. You can also try to reverse it. Like I can bring this here and bring that there and see if that works. But no, I think the other is better. Yeah, this is better. Okay, and then similarly, I can just pick up one more color. So Control C, Control V. Let's call this chocolate, and we'll call this, I don't know, pink. So I want to do one more that is pink. So I can take this and, you know, similar color. So just take this. So this will be lighter and that will be darker. Yeah. So maybe this is like a red velvet cake or something like that. Yeah. And then we can just, you know, like if I take a switch, we won't eventually take a switch, but for now I'm going to take a switch. So if you take a switch and then you have, you know, like, okay, it's got updating issues. So just change, you know, any parameter that will modify the geometry count and just bring it back. Okay. But if I change it now, see, so you have 3 different cakes. With this one, if you want the lines to be smoother, I can change this away from being constant to linear, you know, like all of them to be linear. Yeah. And then what I can do is I can just sort of squeeze them in like this. Yeah. So the values are a little bit smoother, you know, like they blend a little better rather than just being like, you know, these really hard lines. But yeah, see, so you have like, you know, 3 different cakes. All right. So that's basically it. So this is how we model, you know, the basic cupcake that we want. So in the next video, we're going to take a look at something relatively simple. We'll just take a look at how to make, you know, the wrapper on the outside.